this study, which is really good because that's the longest of all the sections that this text has. There are a few things I want to talk about before we continue reading, because there's certain things the text, because it's a preliminary text or a primary text, it doesn't cover, but I think they're worth sharing with you guys. The first one is when it comes to moving before the imam. If you're a ma'moom, if you're praying behind the imam, what happens if you move before the imam? So he says Allahu Akbar, and you move, and then what you see is that you're there and he's not there yet. Right? He says Sami Allahu liman hamida, you stand up and he's still coming up. So what happens with that? The Hanabila say that the salat tabtul, the salat is nullified. It's no longer, it doesn't count. For the rest of the scholars, they say sahhat ma'al ithm, meaning the prayer is acceptable, but there's ithm. I mean, there's sayyi'at. You actually get sayyi'ah for doing that. Meaning there's something you should do istighfar for. Right? So it's a very, very dangerous issue when it comes to prayer. It's important for the imam to make sure he knows the people behind him and that they understand when they're supposed to make the movement. So when he says Allahu Akbar, they should know at what point they're supposed to move. They should wait for him to actually make the movement. That's why I usually, when I pray, I usually say Allahu Akbar at the end, when I'm just to make sure that no one makes it beforehand. So that's one. That's one.
What is accidental?
So whether it's accidental or it's on purpose, it doesn't make much of a difference. It's all the same. Another thing is that there's yajuzu raddu salami bil ishara fi salah. So if you're praying and someone says salam, you're allowed to respond to them with ishara, like with a hand gesture. You're not allowed, however, to actually respond to them verbally. If you respond to them verbally, that's from the mubtilat, that's from the nullifiers or the invalidators of prayer. But if you make it, if you reply to them with ishara, that is acceptable for the majority of schools of thought. A few things regarding Jumu'ah before we continue with the mustahabbat or the sunan of the day of Jumu'ah, is it okay for someone to give a khutbah and someone else to be the imam of prayer, right? So the jumhur of the Ahl al-Ilm, the Hanabila, the Hanafi and the Shafi'iyya are okay with that. Only the Malikiyya say no. The guy who gives the khutbah has to pray unless there's a udhr, unless there's a reason, an excuse. The guy is too sick to stand up or pray, or the imam al-ratib who does the prayers, the guy who gives the khutbah doesn't know how to recite the Quran properly. If there's no udhr, the Malikiyya are a bit firm on the fact that it should be the same person who is doing both. They say it's wajib. But the rest of the scholars, it's sunnah, so it's recommended that the person who gives the khutbah does the prayer, but if not, it's not a problem for them. Just because these things come up quite often, I get these questions all the time. Another thing is, how is it considered that you actually prayed Jumu'ah? For the Jumhur, if you catch the last rak'ah, if you catch the whole last rak'ah, meaning if you come and the imam is doing ruku' and you do ruku' in the second rak'ah, you catch the second rak'ah, then you've caught Jumu'ah. You just do 2 rak'ah, right? For the Shafi'iyya and the majority of scholars, if you don't catch the second rak'ah, you come and the imam is in the last tashahhud. Okay, so you sit. What do you pray? When you stand up, what do? You pray 4. So you pray 4 rak'at dhuhr for the Shafi'iyya and the Hanabila and the Malikiyya. Abu Hanifa specifically, and I think Muhammad al-Hasan, one of his students, they said man adraka at-tashahhud yusalli rak'atayn. If you catch the tashahhud, then you just pray 2 rak'ah. But that's only one opinion. The majority is that if you catch, you have to catch at least the last rak'ah. If you don't catch the last rak'ah, you just come in towards the end of it, then you have to stand up and pray dhuhr. So those are just a couple of things regarding yes.
Sometimes people just follow the imam by seeing, then we say Allahu Akbar. Maybe the guy here go to the second say first, and then we say this when we are imam. People just follow his movement, not the sound, and other people are still standing.
Yes.
They are waiting for him.
Yeah, so that's why it's a bit important for the imam to communicate with his congregation in terms of when he's saying Allahu Akbar and how in terms of when he's moving.
So the sound part is moving.
Yeah, so that's why, and that's something that you have to agree to within the congregation. So the imam is usually, that's why it's better to have one imam who's leading the prayers, because usually they understand how he does it, and then it's not confusing, and people aren't ending up going before him or
Not before him. like people standing in the first half.
Yeah.
They follow him moving.
Yeah, that's fine, as long as that's not a problem. They're not losing anything with their prayer if they're following his movement, as long as they're not arriving at the movement before he does. As long as you don't arrive before him, that's fine.
People behind, they don't see him.
Yeah, so they can just follow the voice, yeah, which is fine as well. Okay, so we're going to start. Yes, go ahead.
Is there a warning of staying in the front row?
Yeah, so the best place to pray in a jama'ah is within the first row. And towards the right side of the saf. So that's mayamin al-sufufi wa awailuha. So the first lines and towards the right. That's the best place for you to pray. You just get more ajr. You just get way more ajr than the closer you are to the imam, right? So there are certain hadith that specify stuff, but they may lack a bit of authenticity. So there's a lot of ajr in terms of praying in front of the sufuf and towards the right part of it. No, for all prayers. Yeah, for all prayers. Yeah. All right. So where we are is at وَيُسْتَحَبُّ الْإِنصَاتُ فِي وَقْتِ الْخُطْبَةِ. That's where we are in the text, and it is recommended that you listen carefully and clearly during the time of al-khutbah. So when you walk in and the imam is doing the khutbah, it is highly recommended that you listen carefully. Now I know that sounds redundant, or you've heard that a lot, but there is a point here that should be made, which is it is wajib upon you. The Shafi'i say yustahab, the other madhahib say wajib. It is very highly recommended, if not obligatory, for you to listen when the imam is speaking, even if you don't agree with what he's saying or if you don't like the person who is standing there talking. It is wajib for you to try and get something out of it. Try to benefit in one way or another from what's being said. You have to listen. You're not allowed during the khutbah time, to do anything. To speak to people, to give people advice. The only thing that is acceptable is makruh, even for the Shafi'i, is radd salam. So someone says salamu alaikum, you should say alaikum assalam. It's makruh that this happened. You shouldn't be giving salams during khutbah. You should be listening to the imam. The Prophet ﷺ in a hadith told us, من قال لصاحبه والإمام يخطب أنصت فقد لغى ومن لغى فلا جمعة له. He who says to his brother, who is talking during the khutbah, stop talking, has done laghu. Laghu means he has ruined the sacred, the sanctity of the khutbah, and he doesn't get the ajr of Jumu'ah. So you shouldn't be speaking at all. During khutbah, you shouldn't say anything at all. You should be only listening to the imam, regardless of whether you're benefiting or not, whether people talk to you or not. You shouldn't. Any communication during the khutbah Jumu'ah should happen between the khatib and the people who are listening. So the khatib can talk to the congregation can sometimes answer the khatib. But people talking amongst each other during Jumu'ah, you lose. That basically takes away the whole ajr of the day of Jumu'ah. All right. The second, yes. ومن دخل والإمام يخطب صلى ركعتين خفيفتين ثم يجلس. And he who enters and the imam is doing the khutbah, he prays two light rak'atain of sunnah, ثم يجلس, and then they sit down. Now and that is the Jamhur's stand on that issue, except the Malikiyyah. It's just the Malikiyyah that say you shouldn't pray to rak'ah when you walk in. So you can do either. So if you walk in, you can pray to rak'ah, or you can just sit immediately. There's two opinions that exist. I would advise that when you walk in, if there's space, there's enough space, then pray to rak'ah. If there's not enough space, then sit down, because if there's not enough space, you're going to end up pushing people out of the way, and that can be very disturbing to others when they're listening to the khutbah. So if you walk in and there's space, pray the two rak'ah. The Shafi'iyya say it's a sunnah, and so do the majority of the scholars. Only the Malikiyyah say that no, you shouldn't pray when you walk in. You sit down immediately and you listen to the khatib. All right. وصلاة العيدين سنة مؤكدة, and the prayer of Eid, both Eid, whether Eid al-Fitr or Eid al-Adha, is a highly recommended sunnah. So it's not a regular sunnah, it's a sunnah مؤكدة. So it's an emphasized sunnah, right? وهي ركعتان يكبر في الأولى 7 سوى تكبيرة الإحرام وفي الثانية 5 سوى تكبيرة الإحرام. And what they are 2 rak'ah that are going to be prayed. You say Allahu Akbar 7 times in the first one besides the first takbir, and you say 5 in the second one besides the standing up takbir. Alright, so we're praying Eid. So what you do is, you say, you're going to start your prayer. So you say Allahu Akbar, and this is the takbir of al-ihram. This is getting into prayer. Now you have to do 7 takbirat. So you have to do 7 in a row. Allahu Akbar. and you give a small period of time between each takbir. You say Subhanallah, walhamdulillah, wa la ilaha illallah, wallahu akbar. Allahu akbar. Then you say the same thing, you have to do 7. Then you go, you recite the Surah Al-Fatiha, you recite a surah, you make ruku', you make rafa', you make sujood, you sit, you make sujood again, then you stand up. When you stand up, what do you say? Allahu Akbar. And then you do 5. Alright? And then after you do that one, because that's kind of telling people to stand up, then you count 5. So altogether, you do 8 in the first and 6 in the second, and that's counting into them the takbirat that allow you to actually stand up and do it, right? So if you're not counting takbirat al-ihram and the takbir that you do when you're standing up, then you're doing 7 plus 5. Does that make sense, inshallah? Okay. And that is for, of course, the Jumhur. Yes. For both Eids, no difference at all. Right? And everything around regarding the khutbah and the salah of Eidain, there's no difference between Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha whatsoever. Right. Well, yes.
Does it pray differently with other madhabs?
No, it's pretty much the same for all of them. For the Eidain, they're the same. ويخطب بعدها خطبتين يكبر في الأولى 9 وفي الثانية 7. And then he gives 2 khutbahs. The Imam, after the prayer, he gives 2 khutbahs, just like you do for Jum'ah. We said Jum'ah has 2 khutbahs. There's a small pause, he sits down for a few seconds, then stands up and gives another khutbah. So the same thing goes for Eid. The only difference is that the khutbah of Al-Jum'ah is faridah is farad ayn, so it's upon every Muslim to attend it, every hur bali. We talked about the conditions that you need in order for you to attend. And for Eid, it's a sunnah mu'akkada. So you do, after prayer Eid, if you stand up and you leave, then there's nothing wrong. You're not getting any, you're not being held accountable. There's no ithm. It's not sinful. And if you talk during the khutbah, it's not sinful either, because it's not, it doesn't get the same rulings as khutbah al-Jum'ah, even though it is highly recommended that you sit and you listen to the 2 khutbahs. What does the Imam do in these 2 khutbahs? يكبر في الأولى 9 وفي الثانية 7. So the Imam, when he stands up to give the khutbah, he will make takbir 9 times. Allahu Akbar, 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 Allahu Akbar. So he does 9 in the first khutbah. Then when he sits and he stands up, he does the same thing. He gives 7 takbirat in the second khutbah. Now, of course, there are other madhahib that don't specify the number, but this is what the Shafi'iyya say anyway, and this is what the majority of scholars are a part of. All right. وَيُكَبِّرُ, yes.
Recite certain surahs for the prayer?
For the prayers, there are a number of different surahs that are recommended. There's different, so like Qaf and Al-Najm, or Al-A'la and Al-Ghashiyah. Or so there's different combinations because there was a lack of, I guess, consistency in some of them. Most of the madhab don't go into too much detail of talking about them, but there is sunniyah. So if an imam is going to lead Jum'ah, lead Eid, then it is recommended that he knows what combinations of surahs the Prophet ﷺ would commonly put together when he's praying. But if you don't do that, there's no la haraj. There's no problem with not doing that at all. Okay. وَيُكَبِّرُ. Before we do that, let's ask a question. So what happens when Jum'ah and Eid are on the same day? Happens every once in a while. So what do you do?
If you go to Salat Eid, you don't go to Jum'ah.
So only the Hanabila, by the way, say that. Only the Hanabila. So only them. The Hanafiyya, the Malikiyya, and the Shafi'iyya all say لا تجزئ صلاة العيد عن الجمعة. That if you go to Eid, you go to Jum'ah. The Shafi'iyya have an additional, the Imam Shafi'i had an additional condition where he said, if Ahl al-Qura, meaning if there are people who live far away and they hear the Nida for Eid, they go for Eid, they don't have to come back for Jum'ah. And that kind of works in the setting we're in. That kind of affects all of us. We're all like that. We're all living quite far away from the masjid. So if you're going to talk about Jum'ah and Eid the same day, so the Hanafi and the Malikiyya hold on to the fact that you should do both, and the Shafi'i and the Hanabila are okay with you just doing one of them. However, if you don't do Eid, you have to do Jum'ah, and if you do Eid, you still have to pray Dhuhr. You can't not pray Dhuhr. So that's just kind of to add up the concept, because it does quite often we end up on Jum'ah having both, and people the Hanabila say, since they say you don't have to do both, but the Imam has to do both. So Hanabi say that you don't have to do both, but the Imam has to pray, give the khutbah, pray Eid and give the khutbah, and then be there for Jum'ah in case more than 40 people, because that's the Hanbali madhab, more than 40 people come for Jum'ah, then he gives the khutbah as well. But if you as an individual, if you do Jum'ah, then Eid, then you should be okay not coming for Jum'ah. All right. ويكبر من غروب الشمس من ليلة العيد إلى أن يدخل الإمام في الصلاة. And takbir happens during the time of Eid, from the sunset of the night of Eid إلى أن يدخل الإمام في الصلاة, until the Imam begins prayer. So you start from after Maghrib. So we're talking about Ramadan right now, Eid al-Fitr. So during Ramadan, once you know the next day is Eid, the takbir begins from after Maghrib of that day and until the Imam begins Salat al-Eid. That's when takbir. Do we do it after each prayer and after the sunan? There's a lot of difference of opinion here. They differ on whether it's during the Ramadan Eid, whether you do it after each prayer, or is it just general takbir? You start from after Maghrib and just keep on doing it until after Salat al-Eid. There's difference of opinion. That's why the second part of the text, yes?
Sorry, is it usually so right when the Maghrib hits for 3 days? Is that usually?
So that's for Adha. Hold on, we're going to read about Eid al-Adha in a second. I'm talking about Eid al-Fitr. So after Ramadan, it's just from the Maghrib of the last day of Ramadan, the Maghrib of the day of Eid, which is, Maghrib is always before Eid, right? So the Maghrib happens before the day, not after. So from the Maghrib until the Imam starts Eid Salah. And that's it, and then you're done. There's no more takbir. Do we do it after each prayer? More modern scholars said yes, you do it after the fara'id, and some of them said you do it after the nawafil, and some of them say you don't have to do it after prayers specifically, you just have to do it generally. I think doing after prayers is special during the times of Eid. I think it's worth holding on to, even though there's a lot of difference of opinion, so you can do whatever you like. وفي الأضحى, so the Imam continues, Imam Abu Shuja continues, وفي الأضحى, in the Eid al-Adha, خلف الصلوات المفروضات, after the obligatory prayers, من صبح يوم عرفة, from after Fajr of the day of Arafah, إلى العصر من آخر أيام التشريق, until the Salat al-Asr of the last day of أيام التشريق. So let's do the calculation. What are أيام التشريق? So which one are they of Dhul Hijjah? So Dhul Hijjah, right, when Dhul Hijjah comes in, which is the time of Eid, day number 9 is Arafah. Right? Day number 9 is Arafah. Day number 10 is Yawm al-Nahr, or what we call commonly Yawm al-Eid. And then after that, you have Ayyam al-Tashriq, the days of Tashriq. So when does Takbir begin? Takbir begins from Fajr of this day, from after Fajr of this day, until Asr of this last day. Alright, so Asr is the last time you do takbir after prayers of the 13th day of Dhul Hijjah. Does that make sense? So all of the Arafah from Fajr, and then all of Yawm al-Nahr, then all of the 11th day, all of the 12th day, and then the 13th day up till Asr. Maghrib you don't do it. So takbir, and this is specified for Shafi'iyya and for many other madhahib as well, specified to happen after salawat al-mafrudat, after the obligatory prayers you do them, you do takbir. Now how, you know how takbir, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, La ilaha illallah, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Walillahi alhamd, and you do it 3 times. Now anything that's after that is our cultural additions, that every group of people or populations have different ways to do it. The Shafi'i have a specific way of doing it. I don't think it's in this text, but you will find it in other texts that are a bit more comprehensive. Huh? No. Why would it be bid'ah? No, not at all. The Sahaba did takbir in a lot of different ways, and this is a historical fact. I mean, meaning that Ahl Medina had takbir that was a bit different than Ahl Mecca, that was a bit different than Ahl Kufa, and there's always been different of the continuation of takbir. It all has the same elements within it, maybe just difference of certain words that were used here that weren't used there, but it's all. There's no bid'iyya in this whatsoever. This is actually a sunnah. Doing takbir during the time of Eid is a big sunnah, and you should do it all the time. Meaning during that night between Maghrib of the last day of Ramadan and Salat al-Eid of Eid al-Fitr, and then the timing that I showed you for the Hijjah from the 9th, from the day of Arafah. Takbir is something you should do when you're walking around. So you're walking in the street, you should be doing takbir, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, always doing takbir. You walk into a house, you do takbir. You walk into the market, you do takbir. Now here in this society, it's hard to walk into Walmart and do takbir and then end up in cuffs. But the idea is doing takbir is a sunnah. So if you walk into the masjid, you leave the masjid, walk into your home, walk into your parents' home, doing takbir is a good sunnah. Sometimes some of the Sahaba the tabi'een, sorry, some of the tabi'een would have a sunnah where you would walk into the house, you would start takbir when you walked in, and then everyone in the house would do takbir together until the 3 times were done, and then you would start talking to each other. So there'd be takbir first, and that is, it's a nice thing to try and maybe try and practice that when the next Eid comes. And you'll find it. There's a certain barakah, inshallah, that you'll find it, inshallah. Okay. Yes.
What does the Ayyam al-Tashriq mean?
That's a long story. They have different opinions on the meaning of the word tashriq. Inshallah, we'll come to it when we talk about Hajj, because Hajj is specific, or it's an independent chapter in this book that we will cover, inshallah, in detail. Now, before we move on to the next.
Is there anything about having to pray 8 prayer outside of the mosque, like
Yeah, so it's sunnah for all the madhahib, except the Malikiyya, to pray outside. The Malikiyya say you can pray inside if you want, but it's sunnah for us to pray outside, and for everyone to attend. For men to attend, for women, to children. In certain riwayat, even you can take your livestock with you. But that's more for istisqa, but you can do it for sunnah, for Eid as well. So Eid is a celebration, so taking your family, everyone should go. It's better celebrated here, to be honest, in most parts of the Middle East. The Middle East, they pray in the masajid. Eid, and in the masajid, the families don't end up going, meaning the wife and the children end up staying home, and the man just goes to praise Eid and come back. But here, it's actually much nicer. Even though I would love to go back and pray Eid in my own hometown, but still, it's nicer here because the whole family goes together. You take your wife, everyone goes, you pray Eid, people spend some time together. It's nice. That's the whole point of it. So you get to practice it here a bit better, subhanAllah, because the masajid are a bit smaller. But going outside and doing it in an open venue where everyone attends is actually the sunnah that we're looking for. What this matn does not cover is makruhat as-salah, the unrecommended actions of salah. This matn doesn't go into them. I thought it was worthy that we would just talk about a couple of them just for the benefit. So that way I've covered everything, inshallah, that you need to know about prayer. Yes.
For that, if you pray in a mosque, they pray different than the usual. Example, I prayed in Kitchener last time. They make the takbir after the ruku'. When they ruku', then when they come from the ruku', they make 7 takbirat. And the next, the second rak'ah, the same.
You prayed in a Shia mosque.
After ruku'.
Yeah, so you prayed in a Shia mosque. You didn't pray in a Sunni mosque. So there's no Sunni madhab that does that. Only the Shia do that.
What do you do?
Nothing. It's fine as long as the number of rak'at are maintained. Well, that's that's what it's probably the worst question to ask right now in the climate that exists. I don't find a problem following the salawat of other madhahib that aren't within the Sunni madhab, like Ibadiyya or Zahiriyya or any of the Shia, as long as the actual movements are maintained, as long as the ruku' is still happening and the rafi' and the sujood, as long as none of those are being taken out, then you can follow them. If they only do 2 rak'ah, then you can do when they do taslim, you stand up and you can continue. Like if you're doing Isha and they only do 2 rak'ah, or you're doing Maghrib, they only do I don't know. I forgot how it works for them anymore. Subhanallah. But they have different. They don't do 4. They only do 2. Like they don't do actually 4 rak'at for any of their prayers. So if you're standing praying behind them and they only do 2, then you stand up and continue the 4 that you're doing. They can do as many takbirat as they want during the salah. There's nothing that they do that is seen as mubtil for the majority of scholars, at least. So you should be able to continue with them, inshallah, your prayer. That shouldn't be a problem.
About Jum'ah.
Yeah.
If you come on the adhan, it's going, so what do? You wait for the adhan? Or you wait until the adhan finishes? Then
To pray the sunnah? Yeah, you always wait for the adhan. Yes. Yeah, so you always wait for the adhan, regardless of whether it's Jum'ah or non-Jum'ah. You always wait for the adhan to finish, and then you pray the 2 rak'ah sunnah.
the Imam starts there.
Yeah. So what about, here's another thing about Jum'ah, since we're talking about Jum'ah. What about how many adhans are there for Yawm al-Jum'ah? Right, there's usually 2 if you so all the madhahib except the Shafi'iyya hold the stance of 2 adhan. An adhan, and then the Imam goes up, says salam, and then another adhan, right? And that's what Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anhu started during his khilafah. Only the Shafi'iyya hold on to 1 adhan, but the rest of the schools of thought recommend 2. Yeah, so only the Shafi'iyya say it's just 1 adhan, the rest of the madhahib say 2. It doesn't really make a difference whether it's 1 or 2, but I thought I would bring that up, it's for the benefit. Yes. Yes, we were.
the public only being Arabic.
Yeah, let's leave that for a while, just until we finish. The last thing I'll talk about within the bab of salah is that, because there's a lot of I want to finish this chapter of salah because there's a lot of talk. There's a lot of things we need to go into regarding that. But because we're coming to close to the end of it, so every time at the beginning I'll talk about issues about salah that doesn't exist in the text. Next time inshallah I'll talk about that if you guys want. But let me talk about makruhat al-salah for today. So what's the first makruh? What is the first unrecommended action in salah? Doesn't invalidate your prayer. These aren't things that will cause your prayer to no longer count. These are things that will take away from the ajr of your prayer. So number one, all right, at-tafa'ub or yawning. So excessive yawning in prayer is makruh. And subhanAllah, I've seen people, the only time they're yawning, I sit with them like for an hour or two, and they're sitting there talking to me, and then we start praying, and they're the whole time. What happened? We were just sitting together for a few, you were fine. Like, suddenly during prayer, and you can't seem to control your reflexes. So you need to control it as much as possible during salah. It's makruh.
Does it make a difference if it was audible or inaudible, like loud or quiet?
For some, not for the Shafiee. Yeah, for some, but not for, for the Shafiee. It doesn't make a difference whether it's audible or not, but for others it does. That's one. Tatha'ub is makruh in salah. Another one, al-abathu bil-thawbi aw al-badan. Al-abathu bil-thawb aw al-badan. So I'm not sure how to put that in English, but al-abath means fussing around with your clothing or your body. So
Playing around?
yeah, so playing around or just kind of during prayer هذا مكروه. You should calm down during the salah. Suddenly, and the shaitan is good at these things. The moment you start praying, something itches you. Right? You say Allahu Akbar and you have an itch. SubhanAllah, I didn't have an itch a second ago. How do I have an itch right now? Like I just did Allahu Akbar. So just, be patient. You don't have to itch you don't have to scratch every itch, even though it's acceptable. Like when there's a udhr, when there's a reason, there's no problem. But try to learn to calm down during prayer. Right? That's what Umar al-Khattab said. If his heart was at peace, then his body would be at peace as well. So the constant moving around, looking around. No, you want to don't play around with your body or your clothing. Number two, رفع البصر. Number three, sorry. النظر إلى ما يلهي. So number three, تغميض العينين. I'll talk about everything to do with the eyes in one. So رفع البصر is when you're standing and you're looking up. You're looking around. I see this too many times. And I'll stare at you when you do it. So if I'm sitting around and you're praying and you stare, I'll stare back at you until you stop staring at me. Because you shouldn't be looking at people. Like I don't look away. You should look away. You're praying. I'm not praying. I can look anywhere I want. Now you're restricted in looking to the place of your sujood. You should be looking down. You shouldn't be looking around, right? So رفع البصر is makruh. النظر إلى ما يلهي, looking at anything that can cause distraction. And this is something that we don't pay enough attention to at home or in our masajid, where we have a lot of zakharif and we have a lot of decorations on what we're praying at. That can be distracting. So in the Prophet ﷺ, we have a hadith where he would tell Aisha, take this back to Abu Jahm. He had given him a piece of cloth that had something written on it or something, a picture on it, and it distracted him during prayer. Please take it away. Get me something that doesn't have distractions on it. So we should observe that importance in our prayer. You want to make the environment around you also easy for you to focus during prayer. So if you have something in front of you that is distracting, something coloring or drawings or writings, then try not to focus on that. If it's there, then try not to focus on it. The third one is تغميض العينين, which is closing your eyes. For a long time, this has always been makruh. Imam al-Nawawi did refute the fact that it was makruh later on in the Majmu' by saying that was specific during the time of the Prophet ﷺ when there was fear of being raided by enemies. So staying alert was a wajib, so during prayer you had to keep your eyes open. I still think that keeping your eyes open is a sunnah during prayer because it's an important it kind of makes salah more realistic. It's more practical. You're not supposed to disconnect from the world when you're praying. You're still a part of the world that you're living in. However, you are also connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think there's an important, I'll talk about that inshallah a bit more later, but the concept of closing your eyes is not, unless you feel that because of what's going on, if you're not, you don't have the ability to focus unless you close your eyes, then you're doing it for a reason, and closing your eyes is not a problem. I'm just bringing it up because it exists in a lot of the books of fiqh that closing your eyes is makruh. But again, if there's a reason for it, it's less of a problem. Try to learn to focus during prayer with your eyes open, focusing in front of you rather than actually closing your eyes. Number 4, the last one that I'll talk about today. There's a lot, there's over 13, but I just chose some that I think are important. As-salatu عند الطعام أو مدافعة الأخبثين. So عند الطعام is praying when food is being served. ومدافعة الأخبثين, or when you feel like you need to go to the bathroom, either types of going to the bathroom, whether you're going to go number 1 or number 2. You shouldn't pray if food is being served. You shouldn't pray if you feel like you need to go to the bathroom, either way. Why? Because it contradicts the whole point of you praying, right? Because if you're going to if food is there, then your salah is going to be quicker, going to be less focused, because you can smell all the batata and the food, and you want to go and you have that. So it's going to be harder for you to focus during prayer. So the ulama say, go take what you want and eat and fill your stomach, then pray, and you can focus on your prayer. And we do the opposite. Like, let's get this out of the way so we can eat, right? So it was always, now, unless we're talking about a salah that has very limited time, like maghrib. So this is not talking about salat al-maghrib. Maghrib you should pray immediately because it's a very limited time. Same for fajr. So Fajr and Maghrib, we're not talking about those ones. Dhuhr, Asr, Isha, we're talking about specifically Isha. And this ruling or this idea is specific, most specific for Salat al-Isha. So if you didn't pray Isha Jama'ah at the time that it's done, and food's being put, then eat and then pray, because you have Salat al-Isha has a prolonged time where you can pray where there's no loss of ajr. So it's a good thought to have. If you're really hungry, or if you have to go to the bathroom, either way, do that and then Sali. Don't pray quickly and then go and enjoy yourself within the bathroom. So these are the 4 makruhat that we should preserve. I think just observe when you're praying. Can you think of any other?
Cracking your bones.
Very good. So jazakallah khair. Any form of this stuff. Sometimes subhanallah, wallah, it irritates me. Someone starts praying and then every single joint, mashallah, very one by one cracks them all back and forth. Mashallah. During salah, that is makruh. You shouldn't do that during salah. You shouldn't do that during listening to the imam doing khutbah either. And these are things you shouldn't do when the imam is doing khutbah. When the imam is doing khutbah, you should listen. The only thing that is acceptable is listening. Please sanctify and holify that concept of Jum'ah and explain it to people that you love and you know. That during khutbah Jum'ah, do not speak at all, ever. Don't say a word. Don't look at anyone. Don't give salam. Don't accept. Just focus on what the imam is saying. If you can't do that, then just at least sit there, act like you are. Yes.
What if we're getting up to line up?
No problem. So before the imam stands up, we can talk. And after the imam says, he's done his dua and he's leaving, he's going aqim as-salah, then we can talk, right? But it's during the imam when he's talking, no. But after that, that's not a problem. And a lot of the tabi'een would never be. روي أن عثمان كان إذا فرغ من خطبته سأل الناس عن معايشهم. So when he finished the khutbah and he says أقم الصلاة, and people are standing up, he would ask people, how are you doing today? كيف الحال? How is your work? How is your rizq? How's everything going? So because the khutbah is over, so people saw that from Uthman. They would pray. People would follow him during salah. Okay, so that was just to talk about the makruhat of salah, because I think it's important. Now we're going to the fasl, the second the chapter after that is going to talk about something that we all do at least once or twice in a lifetime. وَصَلَاةُ الْكُسُوفِ سُنَّةٌ مُؤَكَّدَةٌ. And the prayer of the eclipse is a highly recommended, emphasized sunnah. فَإِنْ فَاتَتْ لَمْ تُقْضَى. If the time of it is past, you don't make up for it. So if you arrive in London, Salat al-Kusuf is happening today, you're on the road, you arrive in London and the Kusuf is over. You don't go pray Salat al-Kusuf. Either you're there for it and you pray, so it's not something that you have to go race over to do. If you're there, you're there. If you're not there, then you're not there. There's nothing that you have to make up for. فَإِنْ فَاتَتْ لَمْ تُقْضَى. You don't have to make up for it. وَيُصَلِّي لِكُسُوفِ الشَّمْسِ وَخُسُوفِ الْقَمَرِ رَكْعَتَيْنِ. And you pray for the eclipse of the lunar, the solar eclipse and the lunar eclipse, 2 rak'ah. Now, he's going to explain to us how they do it, how you pray kusuf. And this is the, yes?
You said lunar eclipse.
Yes.
At night?
Yeah.
Oh, there's khusuf.
So khusuf al-qamar and khusuf al-shams. So there's both of them happen. Khusuf al-shams is way more common than khusuf al-qamar, but both of them happen. Khusuf al-shams is more, it happens with the I mean the moon is the reason for it. For khusuf al-qamar it's a bit different. Yes.
But we pray at the like.
So the reason that we pray for these, what was your before I
I was just gonna say that I thought that. Okay, no, you go ahead. I'll let you finish.
Okay, so the reason that we pray for both, for either of them, is that something similar to that, to what we're seeing to the image of the solar or lunar eclipse, you're going to see something similar to that Yawm al-Qiyamah. Now it's not happening right now. Like it's not. This is not Yawm al-Qiyamah. Obviously, we know that. But something similar. You're going to see something similar to that Yawm al-Qiyamah. So that's a strong reminder. It's a very strong, it's a physical, natural phenomenon of a reminder for you to tell you that this is, right, you're going to see this one day, right, and it's going to be Yawm al-Qiyamah. So it's a reminder. So whenever there's something that reminds us of Yawm al-Qiyamah, what do? We go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in prayer. So it's not that we're scared that something's going to happen. It's a reminder. It's reminding us of Yawm al-Qiyamah, and we are people that are reminded. Meaning when something is there that to remind us of Yawm al-Qiyamah and of al-Akhirah, the hereafter, then we take that as a reminder and we draw ourselves closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and we pray. Okay, so that's the reason that we pray these prayers, and it's nice. As a Muslim, you are connected to the natural and cosmic phenomena that happened around you. Like you're not disconnected. Your seasons are connected to your prayers of the day and seasons are connected to the sun. Your months are connected to the moon, right? Like there's a lot of things connected to the stars. Like you are connected to the world around you, and an eclipse is an example of that connection as well. Yes. All right. So how it happens? The Jumhur, amongst them, the Shafi'iyya, pray al-kusuf in a specific manner that is different than all other prayers. Only the Hanafiya pray it regularly. Pray it like 2 normal rak'at, just any two rak'at that you would pray. But the Jumhur, the majority opinion, Shafi'i amongst them, pray kusuf differently. So we're going to read the description, and then I'll show you how it's done. في كل ركعة قيامان يطيل القراءة فيهما. In each rak'ah, you read the Quran twice. You're going to read the Quran twice, and you prolong your recitation within them. وَرُكُوعَانِ يُطِيلُ التَّسْبِيحَ فِيهِمَا دُونَ السُّجُودِ. And there's going to be 2 ruku', and you make them long ruku'. Specifically, so these 2 movements are going to be really long. Everything else is going to be normal. The sujood will be normal, the sitting will be normal, but the qiyam and the ruku' will be longer than anything you've done before. وَيَخْطُبُ بَعْدَهَا خُطْبَتَيْنِ, and then he gives 2 khutbah after the kusuf, and that is what the Shafi'iyya think. The other madhahib have different opinions on whether there should be a khutbah after kusuf or not. Some of them say there should be a khatira. There should be some form of reminder. Shafi'i and the Hanafi say there should be a khutbah. The Hanafi say there shouldn't be anything. But anyway, there's different opinions. But the Shafi'iyya say there should be 2 khutbahs, just like Eid, just like Jum'ah. How the prayer is done. So you stand up, Allahu Akbar. You read al-Fatiha, and you read a surah. You read it takes, you read maybe 100 ayah. And then Allahu Akbar. You make ruku'. And you spend in ruku' a good 5 minutes making tasbih. And then Allahu Akbar. And you read again. And you read for a long time as well, another 100 ayah. And then Allahu Akbar. And you spend a long time, 5 minutes during ruku', and then Sami Allahu liman hamida, and we continue the prayer. We finish the prayer, we finish the rak'ah, we're in sujood, Allahu Akbar. Now I read along. It's a Fatiha and a surah, I read it a long time. I finished, Allahu Akbar. I do ruku', 5-6 minutes of ruku', and then Allahu Akbar. Again, I read and I spend 100 ayah, maybe reading 100 ayah, 10 minutes. And then Allahu Akbar. I spend around 5 minutes in ruku', and then Sami Allahu liman hamida, and I continue the prayer. So this is the only example we have where a rak'ah or a salah will have 2 ruku'as instead of 1 in it. Of course, other madhahib also see, there's already riwayat that there was sometimes 3 ruku'ah. Like there's a narration that the Prophet ﷺ did kusuf with 3 ruku'ahs, not just two within it. And that's what the Jumhur does. The Jumhur does 2 ruku'ah. So the Jumhur of Ahl al-Ilm, you pray this prayer, you have 2 ruku'ah in it. Only the Hanafiya say that it's a normal prayer. Yes?
You said the Shafi'iyya, they do 2 khutb for Salat al-Kusuf.
Yeah. So وَيَخْطُبُ بَعْدَهَا خُطْبَتَيْنِ. Then he gives the Imam, when he's done praying kusuf, he gets on the minbar and he gives 2 khutbahs.
And like so, khutbahs, sit down.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like you do for Eid, right? Not all the madhahib agree to that. Some of them say just a khatira, and some of them say nothing at all. But the Shafi'i and the Hanabila say it's khutbatayn. Yes, go ahead.
Call for prayer, would it be?
Not an adhan, it will be salatu jami'ah. So any call for prayer that is not a fard will be in the form of as-salatu jami'ah, salatu kada yarhamkumullah. So salatul kusuf, salatul istisqa, salatul eid, whatever salat that we have, yarhamkumullah, or even just, so that's how you, yes.
But the khutbah is after the salah?
After the salah. Just like Eid.
So the Shafiee do it, and which ones do it and which ones don't? Can you repeat that?
So the khutbah, so the Malikiyah do a khatira, and the Hanafi don't do anything, but the Hanabila are like the Shafi'iyah in terms of doing the khutbah. Wallahu alam. Yes.
So there's 4 Fatiha or 2 Fatiha?
They differ on that. The Shafi'iyah are for 4 Fatiha, so each time you stand up you do Fatiha, but they differ. There are some schools or some opinions within the madhab that you just stand up and read Quran without a Fatiha. Yes.
So you said just the Malikiyah do just a general khatira?
Yeah, exactly.
Understanding or
Exactly, yeah.
And the Ahnaf do nothing? And
Yeah.
the,
Hanabi are like the Shafi'iyah.
they do what the
Yeah.
Shafiee do?
Yeah.
Shafiee said 4 Fatihas?
Yeah. Now you do this once every couple of years.
Lunar eclipse, so it's more popular than the solar eclipse.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe you're right. Yeah.
And the other thing is, was it prayed by the Prophet, the lunar eclipse?
As far as I know, that he prayed both. If he didn't pray both, he said it in the hadith. He said, "Inna ash-shamsa wal qamara ayatani min ayati Allah. يعني فإذا رأيتم ذلك فادعوا الله وكبروا وصلوا وكذا." So he said that the sun and the moon are 2 signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we have both. I don't think there's specific evidence of him doing khusuf, but he did word it out that both should be done. I don't know which is more. So the lunar eclipse is more common than the. Okay, that's actually interesting. So we can look forward. Maybe we should do that. Do you know when the next one is?
No, but it happened.
We'll look it up, inshallah, and then we should do that. Yani, but when the eclipse is happening, people should come and pray. I think because it happens at night, people don't come for it. But during the day, and I think it's less visible than the solar eclipse. Wallahu alam. Yeah, but both of them are sunnah muakkada. Both of them.
Prayed just within the eclipse. So if the eclipse is done, that's it. No more.
Yeah, once the eclipse is done, you don't do it again. You
You
don't.
can't pray before it.
No, you have to pray at the time. Shafi'i says that you do the Salat al-Kusuf is the Prophet ﷺ jahara fi Salat al-Khusuf biqira'atihi, that he did jahr during khusuf, and some of the Shafi'i say that you don't do jahr during Salat al-Kusuf because it's a day salah, and then you do jahr for khusuf because it's a night salah, because that's how it works. But that's just the Shafi'i, and the rest of them you do jahr for both. Okay. Yeah, it is okay. Yeah.
So would it be also for partial eclipses? Or
Yeah. Partial, full doesn't make a difference. Any form of eclipse, you pray. Again, it's just a reminder. When you see that, you're reminded that something like this is going to. فإذا خسف القمر وجمع الشمس والقمر. Yeah, these are things that are going to happen يوم القيامة. Something similar to that. So this is a good. It's a good reminder for you to kind of take a step back, pray, and remind yourself of what you're doing. Okay. يسر في كسوف الشمس, like I said, he reads in كسوف, you read يعني secretively. ويجهر في خسوف القمر, and he reads out loud, and يعني when it's خسوف of qamar, when it's a lunar eclipse, right? That's what the Shafi'iyya do. Now فصل, we'll do one more chapter. وصلاة الاستسقاء, so now the prayer of istisqa. وصلاة الاستسقاء مسنونة. So praying istisqa is also a sunnah. It's not a sunnah muakkada like al-khusuf and al-idain, but it's still a sunnah. فَيَأْمُرُهُمُ الْإِمَامِ. This is what the Shafi'iyya do. This is what the majority of scholars do. So the majority of the madhahib do here. فَيَأْمُرُهُمُ الْإِمَامِ. The imam commands his congregation بِالتَّوْبَةِ, to do tawbah, to repent, وَالصَّدَقَةِ, to give sadaqah, وَالْخُرُوجِ مِنَ الْمَظَالِمِ, and to make sure that you're not you haven't oppressed anyone. If you've oppressed anyone, to return to those who you've oppressed, whatever it is you transgressed against them with, whatever you took away from them. So khuruj min madhalim is make sure that if I've harmed someone, that I fix that harm between me and them. Wa musalahatil a'da'i, and to find a truce between you and your enemies within the Muslim world, of course. Within you make a truce, or you find some way to lessen the hostility between you and your enemies. Well, siyam thalathat ayyam, and to fast for 3 days. So for 3 days, you're going to do these 3 things. He tells the congregation, for the next 3 days, you are going to repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you are going to give sadaqah, you are going to fix any transgressions you have against other people, you're going to bring truces if you fought with anyone, and you're going to fast for these next 3 days. When those 3 days are done, ثُمَّ يَخْرُجُ بِهِمْ فِي الْيَوْمِ الرَّابِعِ فِي ثِيَابِ بِذْلَةٍ. And then in the 4th day, everyone goes out, the Imam takes his congregation and they leave the city and they go to a place, an open place, في ثياب بذلة, meaning you're wearing clothing that you go to work, meaning not wear clothing that you would usually wear to prayer. What you're supposed to do is when you're coming to prayer is you're wearing good clothing. Better than the clothing that you wear for work. Now, specifically, if you're living in a society that is high in that either people who do agriculture or people who take care of livestock, they're shepherds. Usually, the clothing they wear for work stinks or looks really bad because you're working all day long, you're sweating in them. You're supposed to not wear those clothing to prayer. You're supposed to go home, you change and come wearing something that is clean. So when it comes to istisqa, no, you go in the working clothes. You don't try to make yourself look or smell any better. When it comes to Salat al-Istisqa, you leave within the status that you are after work. وَاسْتِكَانَةٍ وَتَضَرُّعٍ. So you go in working clothing, you go in istikana. Istikana is in humility, or you're trying to feel and look humble. Tadarru' means in true need and true desire of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's mercy. So it's more of a spiritual practice here than it is a physical one. وَيُصَلِّي بِهِمْ رَكْعَتَيْنِ كَصَلَاةِ الْعِيدَيْنِ. And then the Imam will pray with his congregation 2 rak'ah like the Eid rak'ah. How many takbir are there in the Eid rak'ah, in the 2 rak'ah of Eid? 7 and 5 if you don't count
8 and 6.
Yeah, so 8 and 6 if you count the takbirat that help you actually start the prayer and stand up, and 7 and 5 you're not going to count those 2 rak'ah. So that's what he does for Salat al-Istisqa, the Imam. ثم يخطب بعدهما, and then the Imam also gives a khutbah after the prayer of Istisqa. But what he does is يحول رداءه. So the Imam, what the Imam would do is that he would change his clothing. How? He would take the right and make it to the left, or the bottom to the top. So you could do either way. The Shafi'iyya talk about doing both. Now I'm going to take this off for a second and show you how it's going to be done. So this is what you would do. So the Imam after the prayer, he would stand up and give a khutbah, and he would يحول رداءه. So he would take off his and he's wearing this inside out, right? Now the right part is going to be left, right? And the left part is going to be right. Why? Because this looks ridiculous, right? Because it looks like you have nothing, and you're very you're miskeen. You look miskeen. So it's not only are you inside feeling the humbleness, the humility, the desire of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, you also look at in other madhab, you should also do what's bottom top. So in this case I would even flip the side. So instead of having it like this, I would turn it upside down as well. Right? Now if I do that, my pen and everything will fall out, so I'm not going to do it. But that's how you're supposed to do. So if you're wearing a jacket, or if you're wearing, if I'm wearing this shirt, then I would take off the shirt, I would turn it inside out, and I wear it opposite. So you'd look. So when you look at that congregation, if everyone did that, then everyone looks very awkward, very poor, to say the least, very miskeen, because you don't look your best at that point, right? So you would change it from yameen to shimal, or a'la asfal, or yameen shimal. Yes.
For the Imam and all of the matn,
so there's a difference of opinion. Not all of them say that the ma'mumin should do it. Some say only the Imam does it. The Shafiee, yes. Oh. Yes. Istisqa is asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for rain. Now in Canada, I don't think this will ever happen, or maybe it will one day. Allahu alam. Alhamdulillah. Maybe we should say alhamdulillah more often, for the fact that we have so much rain, we have so much water. But I've done this in my life at least 6 times. I've been a part of Istisqa at least 6 times. Very, 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 very common during July within our village that we go and do Istisqa, because if we don't get rain soon, everything is gonna die. Like all the trees are gonna Why do we change? Why do we change? The scholars say نحول الرداء عسى الله أن يحول حالنا من جدب إلى خصب. So we're changing our clothing, changing the way we dress. Maybe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will change our situation from being in drought to having a bit more water. But there is a difference of opinion regarding whether the Shafi'iyya say no, everyone changes, but there are other scholars, other madhahib say that only the Imam does that, the rest don't. Yes.
How many times did it rain?
Before? Wallahi, out of the 6, at least 4.
You change your clothes?
Yeah, we have something on, change it all together and stand outside and pray.
Is there khutbah too, you said?
Yeah, so there's khutbah after he does the 2 rak'ah. He actually changes the clothing during the khutbah. For some for some others, you change it even during prayer. The Shafiee, you change it even during prayer. So during prayer,
Everyone.
Yeah, for Shafiee, everyone does it. So everyone changes their clothes, turns it around. We pray 2 rak'ah like the Eidain, and then the Imam gives a khutbah. And the khutbah, وَيُكْثِرُ, so this is what the text is saying, وَيُكْثِرُ مِنَ الدُّعَاءِ وَالْإِسْتِغْفَارِ. So during the khutbah, he does a lot of dua. He does a lot of istighfar. I mean, there's a lot of astaghfirullah. You say it out loud, the people say it out loud with you. It's actually very nice. It's actually very, very spiritual. One of the most spiritual things you do in your life is if you do istisqa. Because the whole point of it is you go to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showing that I have nothing, we're poor, we're masakeen, we're humble. And the Imam on the minbar gives a different type of khutbah. You only hear it during, that's why I love to do istisqa, because you only hear that type of khutbah during istisqa, where it's not really teaching. It's all just dua and istighfar and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive us and how we should all be, and then yes.
It's common in Saudi Arabia and
it's very common in the Middle East.
they collect everyone in the masjid.
It's very common to do it. It's very common. وَيَدْعُو بِدُعَاءِ رَسُولِ اللَّهِ صَلَى اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ وَسَلَّم. This is what the Imam says, and you should make the dua of the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم. And he puts in here, which is funny, he says it's a primary text, yet he slaps in the whole dua, and it's a very long one. So the Imam Abu Shuja actually puts in the whole dua within the text, which is kind of awkward. I never thought he would, and you would always wondered why he did that, because it's a small text, and usually these things you don't put in, but he put in, and the dua is اللهم اجعلها سقيا رحمة ولا تجعلها سقيا عذاب. Oh Allah, make it a rain of mercy, not a rain of punishment. ولا محق ولا بلاء, neither to destroy or to trial us. ولا هدم ولا غرق, or to cause any destruction or to cause any drowning. ولا هدم ولا غرق. اللهم على الضراب والآكام ومنابت الشجر وبطون الأودية. So Allah send it to the valleys and to where the trees exist and where there are bushes and where there are forests, like everywhere where there are plants that need your water, Ya Rabb, send it. Allahumma hawalayna wa la alayna, make the drought around us, not upon us. Allahumma asqina ghaythan mughithan hani'an mari'an mari'an sahhan 'amman ghadaqan tabaqan mujallila. So Allah, please give us water or rain, and then he describes the water, that it is purified water, that is blessed water that comes not too much and not too little, water that brings life, does not bring death, in all these descriptions that the Prophet ﷺ, that is that is general for everyone to benefit from, that is water that is clean, it's water that you can drink, not acid rain that will fry people's faces. So that is basically what the dua is saying. دائما إلى يوم الدين, forever until the day of judgment, that we keep on getting this khair from you. Allahumma asqina al-ghaytha wa la taj'alna min al-qanitin. Oh Allah, give us your rain, and do not make us those who die from thirst, or those who lose hope. Allahumma inna bil ibadi wal biladi min al-jahdi wal ju'i wal danki ma la nashku illa ilayk. Oh Allah, what has happened to your servants and to your country and to your earth, from what has happened to it regarding its tire, its fatigue, its lack of water and its difficulty, is something we can only complain to you. No one else will listen to us. Allahumma anbit lana az-zar'a wa adir lana ad-dar'a. Oh Allah, send us rain that will bring the green from the earth and will cause the livestock to have milk within there, to give us milk. Wa anzil alayna min barakati as-sama'i, and bring to us from the blessings of the sky. Wa ammit lana min barakati al-ardi, and extract for us the blessings of the earth. Wakshif anna min al-bala'i ma la yakshifuhu ghayruk, and take away from the difficulties that we go through that which no one else can take away but you, Ya Rabb. Allahumma inna nastaghfiruka innaka kunta ghaffara fa arsil as-samaa'a alayna midrara. Oh Allah, we are asking your forgiveness. You have always been the greatest to forgive. So send upon us, send the sky upon us with blessed water. And that is the long dua that the Prophet ﷺ would make. And when you go to a khutbah istisqa, it's a very, very moving moment. I think there's before I continue. Well, let me just say this so we can stop. وَيَغْتَسِلُ فِي الْوَادِي إِذَا سَالَ. And what you're supposed to do, and when the rain comes, you should go and make ghusl as the water is. So if there's like an empty river and the river is filled with the water that comes, you should make ghusl within that water. وَيُسَبِّحُ لِلرَّعْدِ وَلِلْبَرْقِ. And every time you hear thunder and you see lightning, you say subhanallah. You do tasbih when you see that, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually sends it. Why do we do salat al-istisqa? It's a very interesting point here. You're never allowed as a Muslim to sit around and say there's nothing to do. You always have to do something. Even in situations where there's nothing for you to do. But there's actually nothing for you to do. How can you possibly influence the movement of the clouds and the winds in the world? As a person, there's nothing you can do. But you still can't sit around and say there's nothing I can do. Even in a situation where there's literally nothing you can do, you will do something. You will go pray this very, very awkward, weird prayer. Right, like from a philosophical perspective, it's a very interesting experience. When you pray this prayer, it's nothing like any other prayer. You're dressed differently. The imam is talking on the minbar differently. There's a lot of crying. There's a lot of dua. There's a lot of asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because you're never allowed as a Muslim not to do anything. I mean, it's interesting, but only when there's nothing that you can do physically, there's no practical thing you can do, does Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala push you towards spending a lot of time doing dua and doing prayer. Understanding the idea here, as a Muslim, there's always something you can do. There's always some way to improve the situation that you are in. Well, Ya Rab, this situation, there's nothing we can do to improve. Yes, you can. Come and pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way that you never pray to Him. Come and show humility and even dress in a way that you've never done before. There's always something you can do. And I think that's a way of thought within the Islamic faith and within our theology that is very, very important. In our tradition, that we never ever, it's never okay for us not to do anything. It's never okay to say, well, there's nothing to do for this. There's always something you can do. And Salat al-Istisqa is an example. Well, Ya Rab, when it comes to water, there's nothing we can do. Yes, you can. Go pray Istisqa. So He gave you something to do. So you can't say that, I'm just going to wait around. Waiting around for things to happen is never ibadah. It's never acceptable. And I think that's the point that you take from Salat al-Istisqa. And you probably, Allahu A'lam, you may one day need to do it here, but you probably won't. But if you go one day to a place where they do it, it'll be something you'll never forget. Like I remember I prayed Salat al-Istisqa in the Jami' al-Umawi, in Umayyad Mosque in Damascus. This is, I think, 2005 or something to that extent, because all of Damascus hadn't seen rain in 7 to 8 months. So all of the masajid of Damascus were going to do Salat al-Istisqa. Everyone. So I was in Damascus at the time, so I went to Jami' Umayyad, to Umayyad Mosque. It was a huge masjid, and it was packed. It was full. Everyone who had their, even though you should do it outside, but it's hard to, Damascus is a city, there's nowhere to go. So you do it in the masajid. So you would take off your jackets, turn them around, and the imam prayed, and then he did the khutbah, very, very moving. A khutbah, just a very different khutbah. Because it's not like Jumu'ah. Even though you think, I wish Jummah was more like that, because it's very much more moving, and there's a lot of emphasis on the magnification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A lot of dua that's being done during the khutbah, and the people, you get moved by it. And then subhanAllah, 3-4 days later, we were flooded by rain for 3 days. It just rained. So Allah ta'ala alam, you still do your thing, even if rain doesn't come. You still pray istisqa, meaning there's never a situation where you're in distress or it's difficult and you're allowed to sit around and do nothing. You still always have to find something to do. So I think that's the point that we should take from this. We'll stop there. We only have 1, 2, 3, probably, and then 4. Or 4 chapters left for Salah, for the chapter of Salah to finish. What's left is more different types of prayers like janaiz, and then after that we'll try to revise this chapter together. And if there's any questions regarding prayer that I missed or issues that I didn't talk about, then I'll be happy to talk about at that point. Yes, Yusuf.
Two questions.
Yes.
One, how often would you do it? Let's say it hasn't been.
Once per season.
And the other question is. Is it just solely for rain? Would you ever do it for something else?
Like what would be the other thing we would do for?
Crops? Maybe crops aren't growing? Even though there's rain, but crops aren't growing?
No, so it's called istisqa. Istisqa means asking for rain. So it's specifically for rain, but if crops aren't coming out with rain, that means there's a problem that needs to be probably addressed before we do istisqa. Yeah, but istisqa is specifically for rain. Yes.
Back home, like brother mentioned, we never did takbirat like this. We always did 3 extra takbirat after Subhanak Allahumma, just before Surah Fatiha.
Yeah.
In first rakah.
Yeah, that's okay.
And then second rakah just before going to.
There are different opinions on that. Yeah, it's okay. There are different opinions that where you do only.
One time in Cambridge, then forgot, he did 12 extra takbirat in first rakah, and he forgot in the second, and afterward he said it's still okay.
It's sunnah. Doing takbirat during the Salat al-Eid is a sunnah. If you do it, great. If you don't do it, nothing happens. Like there's nothing that you have to make up for this. You don't do it, nothing changes. But there are different madhahib in terms of how many takbirat. I just stuck to the Shafi'iyya for now. Once we study other texts, we'll talk about the numbers, inshallah. He was fired for that. Yeah, subhanallah. What was it? Was it a Hanafi masjid?
Yes.
Hanafi masjid, huh?
Not his Dambar is Arabic, like.
Was the way of prayer, was it Hanafi masjid, was it? Pretty much, yeah, usually they have very little remorse for patience for, people, yeah, subhanAllah, for imams. Imams get kicked out for quick stuff. Yeah, jazakumullah khair. Subhanallah, bihamdika, la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakumullah khair.